What a do, YouTube? This is Acid Root. So I'm going to review a mixtape from the D4L member Fabo, and this project came out in 2008, which is particularly dope just because I wondered what happened to D4L after they dried up in mid 2006. And basically, like, D4L had a couple of hit singles, Laffy Taffy and Bet You Can't Do It Like Me. And then Fabo, I think folks liked Fabo because after like the promotional run of Down for Life, the album by D4L, Fabo did a series of guest verses throughout 2006 and 2007. They were kind of low key, but if you look hard enough for them, you'll find them. And then later in late 2007, and then in late 2007, early 2008, Shawty Lo dropped a solo album, and this kind of broke away from D4L, and they kind of dried up after that. But I wondered what happened to Fabo just because he had dropped some solo songs. I kind of wondered how that turned out and such. And I at least was able to find this mixtape. Now the thing about Fabo is just the fact that there's not an overabundance of information about what he has done. Like in terms of his discography, I can at least find songs, and if you look on YouTube, you can find songs and stuff. But in terms of like projects like this one, Candyman, there's just not an overabundance of like information as far as like what his mixtapes were and if he dropped anything in 2006 2007. It's just kind of a tough find. I will review more of these as I find them, if I find them, but it's kind of an aloof atmosphere, and this was kind of a trick to find in the first place as far as that kind of went. So it's just kind of one of those situations. But I do want to say, in terms of the promotion of the album, I've noticed that a song that Fabo consistently has promoted on like Jeezy's album or Jeezy's mixtape I Am the Street Dream from way back in 2006, and then also the D4L album Down for Life, it was called Scotty on there. There's a song called Geeked Up on here. That's the closest thing I would say to a single, and I just kind of feel like this is like a pull-up song, just like a slow cruise kind of stunt and flash kind of song, just to kind of show off and kind of flex and that sort of stuff. It just really feels like that kind of thumping, kind of plodding, but still kind of mellow, just slow creep kind of song and that sort of thing. It's just kind of one of the flashier songs, I would say. But to kind of talk about the songs I recommend on this project, there's actually 10 songs I recommend plus 3 almost songs. I'll go ahead and recommend those 10 songs and then the 3 extras. So the 10 songs I recommend would be Bow-Legged, Digital, Doing This, Don't Blow My High, Going Crazy, Let's Roll, Pop That, Pork and Beans, She Ready, and Transform. And the 3 almost songs would be Dookie Love, Geeked Up, and Never Be Me. So the reason why Dookie Love and Geeked Up are almost songs is because they're on other projects. I mean, I know that Geeked Up is kind of Fabo's song, but it is on the D4L album, which you can get on there, and it's also on Jeezy's mixtape with a verse from Jeezy. So it's just kind of a song that's been kind of hoarded out a little bit, but I do like the song, but it's just on other projects, so it's just kind of an almost song. And then Dookie Love is off of Pitbull's album from 2007 or so. So it's interesting. I forgot that Fabo was kind of on that, but that's a good one. It's a nice thumping kind of heavy kind of club song in that sort of sense. It's kind of a more raw kind of song. And then Never Be Me, I like this one, but I can't really tell. The thing about Fabo on this project is it's difficult to tell. He kind of is elusive, I would have to say. He's not quite as, I mean, he kind of will not be on songs sometimes, or at least if he is, he'll show up at the very end, or he'll only do 1 verse and let his guests do 2 verses on a 3-verse song. So he kind of under promotes himself and that sort of thing, and I can't even tell whether or not Fabo is on Never Be Me, which I do like the song. It's kind of like a snaking kind of slick kind of club song on here. It just has a real kind of quick kind of key, not piano key, but just kind of keyed beat and that sort of stuff. But I just can't tell if Fabo's on the song. I don't know. There's a group on this song, and I can't tell if Fabo's on the song. I want to say that he's on the 3rd verse, but I'm not for certain just because he sounds different. I know Fabo at least did the chorus, but I'm not sure if he was actually on this song, so I give it an almost song. But to talk about some of the 10 songs I do recommend, like I feel like one of the best beats on here is Going Crazy. I feel like 2 of the best beats on here are Going Crazy and Pop That. I feel like Going Crazy has one of these crunk kind of Lil Jon type beats. This really feels like a pulsating kind of club beat. This perfect energy of it. Pop That, on Pop That, Fabo shows up at the end of that song, and this is kind of like a real sluggish, kind of drugged out, this kind of real oozing kind of song that I really liked. She Ready is a pretty pounding, flirtatious song for getting women and that type of stuff. I definitely like this one. And Pork and Beans is kind of like a dance club song. This is one that's similar to Laffy Taffy, but this doesn't have quite as an addictive beat in the verses. Transform is another stunting song and flexing song. This is really a crazy, crunchy kind of one. And the thing about Transform is Bone Crusher's on here, so it's kind of a late appearance for Bone Crusher. He's from ATL also, so this is kind of a nice one. This is a real synth-heavy one. Definitely reminds me of stuff from 2008. This is a nice one. Bow-Legged is a real nice kind of dance club beat. Bow-Legged is a really nice crunk beat. This is another one that felt like Lil Jon produced something like that. Just kind of like these snaking kind of synthy type things on there. Just really kind of sounds similar to Snappy Fingers and that type of stuff. Just real kind of snap rap. And I'm glad that there is some snap rap on here as far out as 2008 because it was starting to dry up by that point. Digital is kind of like a real kind of synthy electronic type song. Definitely like this one. This is an overall kind of real manic club cut. And Doing This is kind of, this has this Rashida chick on here. I want to say I've seen her before. I don't remember where. Maybe it was with like Cassidy or something. I've seen her before. And like this one's just kind of like a dance club beat. It's kind of a minimalist beat, but I still like this one. I would have to say that Doing This just really has like a kind of stark and this skeletal kind of dance club beat. And really this is one that Fabo lets Rashida have two verses, and he just has kind of a relatively short verse in the middle. So this is what I talk about him being under promoted and stuff. And Don't Blow My High is a nice Don't Blow My High is another crunk sounding kind of Lil Jon type beat. This is kind of more in a violent sense. This is definitely more rowdy crunk like Lil Jon and Lil Scrappy and some of those people used to do. This is kind of one where it's like they're serious about saying don't fuck with my high, don't blow my high here. That would really piss me off, that sort of thing. So I look at that concept as a nice one. It's a different kind of vibe from the usual feel good dance club vibes that Fabo kind of has. Probably would have liked another song like this just to see how rowdy Fabo could get. Because one thing about Fabo is he has a pretty rowdy and crazy personality. So it's definitely a treat when he gets crazy and manic like he does on Bet You Can't Do It Like Me and Laffy Taffy. I feel like Going Crazy is a good example of that. Pop That's pretty good at that. And Pork and Beans is definitely good at that. And then there's just some, I mean, there are some crazy ones. I'm not going to say this album or this mixtape is not crazy. It was just kind of that's the concept, is just trying to get Fabo to do this sort of stuff. But even on these songs, you have to understand that when I recommend these songs to you, I would have to really remember, but there are a lot of guests on here. So just understand that you may be waiting until like the third verse for Fabo. He may only be on the second verse, and there may be two guests in on the first and third verses, or he may just do the first verse and the rest of the project may be guests. So Fabo's not on this project in overabundance. So just understand that a lot of these songs, there's just not many songs that only have Fabo. So that's just kind of the concept. But there are some good ones, and yeah, I think that about covers it. Let's Roll is a pretty snaking kind of club song. This is definitely one that just kind of feels like drugged out and just really kind of screwed up and that type of stuff. I just really like the vibe of it. It's just a real kind of tense dance club song in that sort of situation. There's just a bunch of these. I want to talk about Transform a little bit more. This is kind of one. Yeah, just to reiterate about Transform, this is definitely like a pretty pounding flex type song. If you're looking for like another floss and flex type song like Geeked Up, this is another one for that. So there's just a lot of good moments on here. Talk about some of the moments I didn't enjoy. I kind of feel like I didn't really like the kind of down tempo and personal vibes of Bankhead. I know it was necessary, but it was just kind of an odd one. I didn't really like the Takeoff remix or the Hell Nah remix. I kind of feel like some of the remixes dropped the ball and just weren't that interesting. I think Takeoff was trying to be like a Texas tune, but didn't quite pull it off as well. Yeah, I just wasn't vibing with the Takeoff remix. And Going Jock was kind of an awkward one. I liked that Lil Boozy was on here, but it just kind of felt like a rather kind of mellow and just kind of lackadaisical type song that just was kind of an awkward one and didn't really, I mean, I think just in terms of like house sitting and just kind of relaxing around the crib and not really doing much other than just smoking a stogie or something like that, it just was kind of just like a low-key type one, but didn't really pull off that vibe quite as well. And I didn't like the Geeked Up remix. I just really didn't like the production on that one. And I didn't like the rock rap type beat on Get Loose. I probably would have liked that one better if it would have just been more arranged, but it was just very a sloppy song in a lot of ways. this is kind of the concept. So those are just some ones on here. There's just like some kind of poor production choices, and I kind of feel like Fabo definitely has mastered down the concept of like these crazy crunk type numbers. Fabo definitely has mastered like these crunk type numbers, these snap rap type numbers, and like these overall dance club cuts and just overall kind of crunk craziness and that type of stuff. But I kind of question even like some of these crunchy drugged out songs, but and I would even say some songs for the ladies, but I kind of feel like apart from like weekend kind of material, some of these other ones that try to flesh out the rest of the project were just kind of awkward, like Gone Jock, Bankhead, and Gone Jock, and yeah, I mean, for the most part, there weren't a terrible amount of songs I didn't enjoy. Just Bankhead, Gone Jock, and the remixes kind of didn't hit quite as heavily as I would have liked. And then Get Loose was just kind of an awkward beat and stuff like that. But I just would have to say, in terms of that, at least me liking 10 songs out of 20 plus 3 almost songs, which I do like. Never Be Me, I do like that song. I just can't tell if Fabo's on there. And then Dookie Love is on the Pitbull album, and Geeked Up has been on previous projects. I kind of feel like me liking approximately 13 out of 20. I'm going to go ahead and give this mixtape like a 7.25 out of 10. I feel like that's pretty solid. There is some quality on here, and it's unlike a lot of stuff. This is definitely like an extension of snap rap and crunk music type craziness that was starting to dry up after like mid late 2008 and early 2009 and stuff. But this is kind of underneath the context that this is like a secret vestige of kind of quality dirty south hip hop that this has kind of started to disappear after like the late 2000s or so. And Fabo's a pretty crazy party animal, has great energy, is real manic, will get you excited and that type of stuff. So it's just overall infectious. So 7.25, just a minor amount of complaints, just some poor choices and like, or just not being able to flesh out some other vestiges as far as songwriting. But apart from that, that's really about it. And the social score, I will give like a 9 social because there are plenty of dance cuts on here. It's free music. And just overall, it's a great time. I just feel like, yeah, it definitely gets a 9 out of 10 in the social score. And in terms of the future, that's kind of difficult because Shawty Low is deceased, so I definitely think D4L is dried up entirely. And I don't know what projects. I mean, every now and then I'll see on Instagram that Fabo kind of drops some new songs and that type of stuff. He is at least active on Instagram if you want to look him up there, but I just don't know. Like I said, the information on this guy is kind of minimal, so I don't know his discography or how many projects he's put out in total. But there is some stuff, and if I find it, I'll do it.